Welcome everyone to Latter Daily Digest, third underscore verse, and Momo Nomo, where we combine together to do the Salt Lake Expositor. And today there's lots of news starting late last night. And we decided to preempt what we were going to talk about. We're going to talk about conference. We're going to postpone that till next week. We're going to talk about if Christ were really leading the church, what would he say at conference if he was to sit up in the red chairs, get up at the podium? And so we'd like people to comment on that as that happens. And today, there's the prophet Russell M. Nelson passed away last night, actually. And there was also a shooting in Michigan. And so, Randy, you want to start off with the news about President Nelson?
Sure. Yeah, I borrowed a clip from Megan Hayes in her Mormon News Update, and I'll play that now.
We bring you breaking news at this hour. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has confirmed the passing of Church President Russell M. Nelson.
President Nelson was 101, the oldest president in church history. We're told President Nelson's beloved wife, Wendy, was by his side when he passed away shortly after 10 last night. And each of his 8 living children and their spouses visited him throughout this last week.
President Nelson's counselors, President Dallin H. Oaks and President Henry B. Eyring, also spent time with him in his final days. We have team coverage this morning with reaction from people around the world and right here in Salt Lake City.
We start this morning with religion specialist Carol Makita, who has more on President Nelson's long life that was filled with family, faith, and healing.
How precious is the Book of Mormon to you?
Speaking from the pulpit, that is how most Latter-day Saints know President Russell M. Nelson. But his gifts and talents have been known internationally for decades.
It's really come to profound clarity for me in the last probably 5 years of my life only, of truly how remarkable of a surgeon and an educator and even a businessman that he was.
With Nelson's death, I worry most about Oaks and his anti-LGBTQ plus rhetoric.
Thanks, Randy. Megan, do you have anything to comment about it?
I'm sorry about that.
The delay while you're clicking buttons.
Well, I was going to ask if that was the end of her commentary. It sounded like it was very brief, so I just wondered if she had more to say.
Yeah, she's got a lot to say, but I was just kind of running the informational
Okay.
Thing on it.
Okay. You just chose to end it early. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to say, of course, my heart goes out to all of the people who are who loved President Nelson and who are in mourning today over his passing. And he was 101, so I always, questioned how much of the church running he was actually doing there at the end. And, that always leaves me questioning, if President Nelson isn't really in charge, then who is? And I would imagine that most of the quorum of the 12 were taking over the duties and the day-to-day running of the church type of situation. And we know that according to protocol, Dallin Oaks would be the next person in line to be the prophet of the church if they follow protocol. And I, like Megan, worry about the implications of that for the future of the LGBTQ community who chooses to still stay in the church.
Yeah, I've been getting texts from my TBM friends who are very, very sorrowful of his passing and indicating what an incredible job he did in leading the church. I don't want to be crass and I don't want to be callous, but I don't know that I would agree with the fact that he did a wonderful job. leading the church. I think that there was a lot of dishonesty and a lot of scheming going on. And whether he was aware of it, which I'm sure he was, he's the president, I think he participated in it. And yeah, I just don't have that admiration and that heartbreak that he passed away. I don't mean to be jaded, but that's my true feelings. I think that I'm curious if Dallin H. Oaks, assuming he's the one that'll be taking his place, I'm curious if he will undo any of the things that President Nelson did. And I wonder if we'll go back to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or if it's time to just cut it to the Church of Jesus Christ. But I'll be curious to see what happens. And I think this just made General Conference a whole lot more interesting.
Assuming they decide to talk about it.
Well, yeah.
I'm sure they will tribute. There will be lots of tributing and quoting of President Nelson, right? But other news they might not talk about, except for to say that they abhor violence, I mean, especially violence where it shows that the Mormons are being persecuted.
Yeah, I mean, they do typically tend to avoid talking about current events, and especially things that are in the news involving, the Mormon people. However, a direct attack on a Mormon church, which is the next thing that we're going to report on, which is what happened this morning in Michigan. I will actually be somewhat surprised if they don't say something about a direct attack on a Mormon church. Although it would be keeping in with their tradition of burying their head in the sand and saying, we live in crazy times, keep saying your prayers and paying your tithing. I am a little bit worried as well about Dallin Oaks' sort of authoritarian stance on things. He is an attorney, or at least he was a practicing attorney. So his view of the church and the world seems to be very legalistic. And if anything, I would think that Oaks, as the prophet, would return to a more fundamentalist view of the church and maybe no more of this progressive trying to merge with mainstream Christianity. Maybe going back to LDS.org or Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.org instead of just Church of Jesus Christ. And maybe going back to putting Moroni on the churches on the map instead of using a cross as a symbol. So it'll be interesting to see. And certainly I would expect that even though President Nelson just died this morning, I would expect that by next Sunday, they will have done all of their dealings that they need to do to install the new prophet and announce that at the first session on Sunday morning. And it'll be interesting to hear what the first words of the new prophet will be.
Jane, he was 101 years old. Do you know what the cause of death was?
I don't.
We
usually don't know what the cause of death is.
Well, it has to be that the Lord took him.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I don't know if that'll go on the official coroner's report.
I'm being a little bit lighthearted about it. Obviously he died of old age, but it'll be interesting to hear when the church says the Lord finally decided his mission was over and took him. I'm sure that's what we're going to hear
now.
Yeah.
Than messing with the name of the church.
Well, if he was leading the church astray, that would have ended his mission early.
Right. Maybe there were some things on the table that he was going to change that the Lord didn't want to change. Like drive-through sacrament meeting, Megan.
Hey, that's not my fault. He didn't adopt that plan, so.
But maybe he heard you talk about it and was mulling it around in their Thursday meeting.
I doubt very much that anything I have to say is on the radar of the Q15.
But the one thing that is interesting, the funeral will probably be just before conference or just after conference. I don't think it'll be during conference. And so they're going to have to speed things up or wait until the middle of the week after conference. I don't know what they'll do there.
Well, it'll be interesting to see because, they typically want to make a big deal out of it. And like, as you were saying, Randy, there tends to be a lot of quoting of the prophet and our beloved prophet talk and all of that. And I always appreciate Nemo the Mormon doing his count of, what is it?
How many times Joseph Smith or Jesus or
Joe or Rusty, Rusty. how many times they're quoted, because I would gather Rusty's going to win this time. I think it's going to be an all out Russell Fest. Yes, I believe so. So in that vein, I think there will be a lot of memorializing of, Rusty during the conference, and it'll be like a funeral for him. But Kresha makes a good point. I highly doubt Oaks will change the icon back to Moroni, because didn't the 15 all have to agree to change it in the first place? Well, that's what they tell us. That's what they tell us, is that the Q15 have to agree on every decision that affects the worldwide church. But who knows if that's actually what happens? I would wager that there are some things that get done without the full approval of the entire quorum.
I'll bet you Dallin probably has several things up his sleeve and ideas that he wants to present and change. I think probably they will institute coffee and donuts after the services, but I could be wrong.
So, Dallin's going to have God talking to him, and Dallin would probably think, who deserves to be on the top of temples more, Moroni or Dallin? And God's going to say Dallin. And just think of the majestic birds that could sit atop the chrome dome. That because I'm sure it won't be gold; it'll be chrome probably. And it'll be fantastic.
After the inequality that they demonstrated, not allowing the people of color to have the priesthood and temple rights, I think if they're truly repentant about that, instead of Moroni, they might put a statue up there of Louis Armstrong. Louis Armstrong.
Right. To prove that blacks were always welcome.
Exactly.
Black people. God's
and
black
he'd be
children.
playing a trumpet. So,
Right.
That's just my idea.
I very much think it's going to become the church of what would Dallin do?
Yeah. And
right.
Along with Randy saying, let the saints come marching in, I think would be in the hymn book.
Yeah. And just for the heck of it, Michael, row your boat ashore. Just because it's fun to sing in rounds. And yeah. So I am sad that so many people put so much faith and so much, just faith into the words of President Nelson, especially when it comes to the LGBTQ plus community. I'm appalled that they ruled that the kids couldn't be baptized if they were in a same-sex family. And then God changed his mind. Actually, the way the church puts it is the Q15 pled with God to have mercy on the LGBTQ community. And then the revelation came, oh, guess what? We'll let him back in. So, I don't think that he did any good for the community, the queer community. I think it's all a game of popularity and social demand.
Yeah, and this is, here's something that I would like to point out that, so Calbojo Gal says, President Nelson emphasized God's perfect love for all his children and instructed members to treat LGBTQ plus people with kindness, civility, and love, even when they disagree. And I'll agree with you that that is what gets said from the pulpit in Salt Lake City. However, when they also then institute a policy or several policies that are harmful to LGBTQ people, it sends the opposite message of what they say. So what they say and what the policies are don't match. And that's where I have a problem. If they really did want trans people to feel welcome in their buildings, they would not require trans people to have a trusted person take them to the bathroom. They wouldn't require trans people to, dress in the way that aligns with their gender, or else receive, consequences for their temple recommend. They wouldn't require, or they wouldn't prevent transgender individuals from holding certain callings or interacting with children. So they wouldn't expect transgender children or teenagers to leave activities, at nighttime. Those are the kinds of policies that send the message that trans people are not welcome in the LDS Church. So regardless of what they actually say, that is not always what gets done. So
I see a comment from Carolyn Hunt. Obviously someone who disagrees with some of the things we're saying. And Carolyn, I hope you know that we are never trying to sway anyone from the church or from their beliefs. What we say up here are actually things that are factual. And yes, we do integrate our opinions in it, but we don't ever say anything against the church that is a lie or that's false. We're not slamming the church. We're telling it like it is. So I would hate to see you leave and not come back, but I understand if it doesn't agree with the way you feel. I understand that you don't want to watch. I get it.
Change with Dane. I agree with this comment. Nelson's emphasis goes directly contrary to the proclamation of the family, which I predict Oaks is going to try and canonize. I think that's probably true. Although, the proclamation is pretty much canon anyway. They've asked members to memorize it and recite it, and they take their cues. Members take their cues about their family roles from the family proclamation. That's what we're instructed to do as members. So
I know there was a church committee on scriptures during Joseph Smith's day, and I wonder if they still have that. And I know that every now and then they change like the headings of things. But the last time the sort of canon was changed, I believe, was in 1921, where they took out the doctrine of the church, which used to be the lectures on faith. That was the doctrine. And then the covenants were the revelations that were received by Joseph from God. And so they removed the doctrine from the Doctrine and Covenants at that time. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of comments, people saying that President Nelson emphasized that we need to be kind and loving towards the gay community. Maybe he did, but like Megan just said, the words don't match the actions. Still, they're not allowed the privileges of entering into the temple, having callings in the ward. They're excluded from all of that, and I'm not sure how that is a loving kindness. I think that's just that's always been the wording of the church, that, yeah, they're welcome. They just can't be themselves. We'll choose who they can love. They can't. It's the church's decision who you can and can't love. That doesn't seem very Christ-like to me, just saying.
So, Megan, did you want to bring up introduce the news on the shooter and bring people up to date? Is there still going to be a news conference that we're going to simulcast or live stream?
Yes, I'm actually, I was actually searching for it just now. But we can read the statement that the LDS Church put out. And I will give a brief recap of what happened this morning at approximately 10:25 Eastern time. A 40-year-old man drove his truck into an LDS church building, set the building on fire, and then proceeded to open fire on the people who were there in the chapel worshiping. There was an active service happening at the time. There were hundreds of people inside the building. They probably would have been about halfway through their main meeting with everyone gathered in the main chapel at the time. And all we know at this point is that the alleged shooter was neutralized at the scene, at or near the scene. There were approximately 10 victims that we know of so far. One of those did die, and at least one other is in critical condition. The police then went to the scene or went to a location where they believed that the perpetrator may have lived, with the state police and the bomb squad to collect evidence and data. And we were waiting for the press conference after the collection of that data to get an update. So I was looking for that live. I don't see the press conference happening right now, but it may be, let's see, this one was, I don't see one that's currently happening right now. But as soon as that press conference comes up, it should be coming up in just a couple of minutes here, we will attempt to stream that here as well.
Do you want me to read the statement on violence at a chapel in Grand Blanc, Michigan, from the Church of Jesus Christ newsroom?
Yes, please.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints issued the following to the media on Sunday, September 28, 2025, with an asterisk. Statement may be attributed to Doug Anderson, church spokesperson. A tragic act of violence occurred today at a chapel of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in Grand Blanc, Michigan. During Sunday worship services, a gunman opened fire, and early reports indicate that multiple individuals were injured. We ask for cooperation with local authorities as details become available. The church is in communication with local law enforcement as the investigation continues and as we receive updates on the condition of those affected. We offer thanks to the emergency responders who are assisting victims and families. We are deeply grateful for the outpouring of prayers and concern from so many people around the world. In moments of sorrow and uncertainty, we find strength and comfort through our faith in Jesus Christ. Places of worship are meant to be sanctuaries of peacemaking, prayer, and connection. We pray for peace and healing for all involved.
Thanks for reading that. I do have the press conference video, but we're just waiting for the conference to start, so it hasn't started yet. So I want to say, sorry, go ahead, Randy.
Oh, I was just going to say that I do have something I can post up here pretty quick. So go ahead with your comment, Megan, and then I'll post this. It's not the latest news conference, but it's got some great visuals and very informative.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that in listening to some of the reporting that happened after the last press conference, that there were some people interviewed, one of whom was a nurse who was on strike and had friends who were attending that church or who did regularly attend that church. She said a lot of the nurses reported to the hospital to try and help, but because they were on strike, they were turned away. And so they went directly to the scene and attempted to do what they could there. So the press conference is going live now. If do you mind if we switch over to that?
Oh yeah, great.
We don't have the volume.
I'll just rewind a little bit here. Sorry.
Yeah, I was thinking actually we could just stop it right there.
I'm here to set the ground rules for this press conference. I'm Lieutenant Kim Vetter from Michigan State Police.
Did you want to stop it, Jean?
So yeah, and we could do Randy's update, and then we can play this at like 1.25 speed, the
That's
press
fine.
conference, and catch up as it
Mhm.
goes. What do you think about that?
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead, Randy.
So Megan
Okay.
you might have to remove that from the stage so that Randy can put it up. His own.
Let's see. Let me go over here. I don't think I can go full screen on this, but
No.
let me play it as it is. Ugh. I'm sorry, folks.
No worries.
If they're only going to play shocking sound noise music, then we don't need the audio on it.
Can you hear that?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
You can mute it
Oh,
at the top
my gosh.
there next to the play button.
Yeah. It's not just music, but just bear with me here.
Don't know why people insist on using those sounds for things.
Yeah.
So yes, the church looks fully engulfed, just about.
Yeah. It went up to a 5-alarm fire. And from what I heard, they were able to extinguish the fire, but they, at the time of the last press conference, which was at 1 p.m. Eastern time, they were still concerned about hot spots and, of course, the safety of the firefighters going into a damaged structure. But they expected to find more people once they were able to go inside. I'm really hoping that most people were able to evacuate.
I'm very sorry. I thought that had the press release attached, but I grabbed the wrong clip. So I guess we should go with the live press
Okay.
release.
If you would like to have names and spellings after the conference, I will step back up and answer those questions.
Can you turn the volume up, Megan?
Thank you.
Let me see if I can. I've got it all the way up on mine.
Oh, okay.
I bring all these folks up here on stage today because we couldn't do this as a community without everyone who's standing up here today. We got with me on stage U.S. Attorney Jerome Gorgon, Acting Special Agent in charge of the FBI Reuben Gleeman, Special Agent in charge of the ATF James Deere, Grand Blanc Township Supervisor Scott Bennett, Grand Blanc Township Fire Chief Gent, Genesee County Sheriff's Department Sheriff Chris Swanson, and MSP Michigan State Police Captain Greg Marenko. I'm going to provide an update from the incident that we spoke about earlier today that occurred at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints at 10:25 a.m. I want to talk about our officer's response. That call came out at 10:25 a.m. and 32 seconds. we had officers on scene at 10:25 and 57 seconds. The suspect, again, we're in the preliminary stages right now, was neutralized at 10:33:44 in the parking lot of that church. That suspect is a 40-year-old male from the city of Burton, who we identified as Thomas Jacob Sanford. That's Thomas Jacob Sanford, Sanford. Currently, where we're at, an update. I gave you 10 victims who were victims of gunshot. Since then, we have 2 victims who are now deceased. One additional one had died at a local hospital. And again, that suspect is deceased as well. 7 other victims at this time are in stable condition. 1 is in critical condition. Now, for the reunification, I had a question earlier about, hey, where can people call to see if their loved one is okay at the reunification center? I want to provide a number for you for that. It's 248-705-7352. Also, I know that our community is hurting right now, and we want to provide some resources for our community moving forward. At the Genesis Athletic Club in Grand Blanc for Monday and Tuesday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., we will have services for the community. From Wednesday to Friday, those services will be available to our community at the Grand Blanc Senior Center. That's all I have for now. I will give you another update, another press conference at 8 p.m. Thank you.
Does anybody need any of those names spelled? Sanford, Sanfo.
Well, if that's all there was, I'm disappointed, to say the least. I was expecting them to have some more information for us, but so here's what I don't want to do. I don't want to speculate about things that haven't been confirmed by law enforcement, because I think that's dangerous to do. But Randy was able to do some digging, and we were able to find some information about the suspect. So I'd like to talk about that just a little bit. And I do want to share one other thing, a report from the Associated Press, because there are some pictures with this report that I want to talk about a little bit. If that's okay.
I find it interesting, Megan, that in the report they didn't mention that he drove his truck into the church building. And
so that, I guess, with an ongoing investigation, even talking about details like that is kind of dangerous, I guess, because they could and it could end up that they're saying something that's erroneous, and so I understand them not wanting to say anything like that.
Or poisoning other eyewitnesses' accounts. It could change their memories of things.
Sure. And I know that they're going to have to interview every single person who was in the building that day. And I think this is true, Christine. They want to make sure they have all the facts before they announce more. And this is really sad. A place of worship should never be a place where we feel unsafe, nor should a school. But unfortunately, we just live in a time and a country where the gun laws, such that they are, allow for these things to happen pretty frequently. Go ahead, Randy.
History has proven that copycat crimes are frequent in situations like this. So I hope this doesn't happen where others say, well, I'll do the same thing. I'll see if I can't be more effective at it. That's
Yeah.
my concern. I've got a lot of loved ones who are, in the church and attend the services, and
Yeah.
I would be mortified if anything happened to them. And this is a horrific example of, call it racism, call it bigotry, but it's really sad when this is allowed to happen. And I sometimes wonder, why it's allowed to happen.
Yeah. Thank you for that. So this article is put out by the Associated Press, which is a news outlet that a lot of other news outlets use their reporting because they tend to be fairly unbiased. And so I like to use them as a resource, although I try to consume as many different news outlet sources as I possibly can to make sure that I'm getting the facts correct. I try to be very careful about that. And I also try to be very careful about, reporting the facts without too much of my own opinion on it. And when it is my opinion, I say it's my opinion. So anyway, go ahead.
Would you like me to read that, Megan?
Sure.
Grand Blanc Township, Michigan. A gunman opened fire inside a Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints chapel in Michigan during a Sunday service before apparently setting the building ablaze, killing at least 2 people and injuring several others before the police shot him, authorities said. Hundreds of people were inside the church in Grand Blanc Township when a 40-year-old man rammed a pickup truck through the front door, then got out of the vehicle and started shooting. Police Chief William Rain told reporters. Police believe he deliberately set the building on fire. After the suspect left the church, 2 officers pursued him and engaged in gunfire, Rain said. The man was killed.
Yeah, so this is the picture that has sort of been circulating. This would be the front of the church. And I know initially when we were getting reports from this, they were saying that the person drove their truck through the front doors. This picture is not consistent with that report because this would be the front of the building, not the front doors, which would have been around the side of the building. So if we go back and look at this aerial shot of the church, the front doors would have been over here where this group of trees is, and there would have been other front doors corresponding on the other side as well. So I'm not sure exactly the orientation of this, and I was hoping that we'd get clarification with the press conference from that. If you zoom in on this license plate here, it says Iraq on the side of the license plate, which some people have speculated that he was an Iraq war veteran. I wasn't able to corroborate that or not, but you can see that there are 2 American flags in the back of his truck. Although I don't want to speculate on what that could possibly mean about his motivations for this attack.
Well, I know what it means around here. Those are typically people who are, very, very right-wing, and please forgive me, but Trump supporters fly their flags in the pickup trucks, big old pickup trucks, as a statement that I support President Trump. I'm not trying to start a political argument. I'm just telling you what it means here in Spokane, Washington, anyway.
Yeah, that tends to be true where I live as well. Although without actually, seeing a Trump flag or a MAGA flag, I don't want to say one way or the other. It could be either way. But there isn't a whole lot more information that comes out of this article or anywhere else that I can find. So I'm as I say, I'm disappointed in the news conference because it wasn't really anything other than, sort of parading out the officials who are working on the case, which is great that they are. And I'm so grateful to first responders. He did point out that police were on the scene within a minute of the 911 call. Is that what you understood as well?
That's what he said, wasn't it? Didn't he say
Under
like
a minute?
57 seconds? Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah. So, and then that the suspect was subdued less than 8 minutes later. So that's, incredible work on the police department, on the part of the police department there that responded. And then he talked about community services that were available, but definitely, we didn't get a whole lot more information, and that's what I was hoping for. Do you want to talk, Randy, a little bit about the report that you ran on this individual?
First of all, I want to say that I would imagine the suspect was on foot when they pursued him. Obviously, his vehicle was still there at the church. So I think that's probably why they were able to apprehend him so soon. The report that I ran on him indicates that he's a truck driver for a living. He's a 40-year-old male. He has had several addresses, several different phone numbers, and I have not delved into my report enough to make any more, to make it. I just haven't, I've run the report, quickly glanced at it, but I haven't done a deep dive to figure out, what his, he also cleaned houses. He had a house cleaning business and drove truck. And that's what I know about him so far. Megan is a sleuth and was the one that came up with the name. And she knew before it came out in the news. I shouldn't say knew, but she speculated before it came out in the news who it was. And so that's how I was able to run the report on him. So actually, thanks to Megan for being top notch in that, because she was 100% right.
Yeah, it was interesting after the press conference. The news station that I was watching they were doing a live stream, and they had a reporter at a second location where they had police officers as well as state police and the state police bomb squad, and it was evident by the location where they were that it was more of a rural neighborhood. And from where the news anchor was reporting, it was clear that it wasn't this house and it wasn't this house. It had to have been a house further down the street. And the only house that was further down the street, I was able to get the address and look up the voting records. And I've also been told, by the way, that it's the way to pronounce the town name is Grand Blanc. I was told that by a resident. And it's interesting to the different facts and things that are coming in. Somebody just emailed me and said the alleged shooting/fire that took place in Grand Blanc occurred at a meeting house, which according to the LDS website is closed and has been for some time. You can look up this on the LDS website, Church Finder. I actually, when I went to Google Maps and looked it up, it said that the church building was closed. However, it could be that they update. I mean, it said on the map that it had been updated just this morning, that it was closed. So, and when I saw video of the actual scene there, that was taken by one of the people who was on scene as people were evacuating out of the chapel, it was very clear there were people who were dressed for Sunday services coming out of the chapel. There were stretchers being loaded into ambulances at that time that had people on them. So it was very clear that there were people in the building today, whether it's been closed for a long time or not.
So possibly they had a special meeting of sorts in there, or
Yeah, it definitely is possible. If the building had been closed for some time, it's possible that they were having a special service, maybe in honor of President Nelson, since he died early this morning, and they would have been able to get the word out about that as well. So just based on the information that I've seen, and I've been watching news reports on this all day long, I can show you actually, it might actually be helpful for us to watch a couple of little clips of this other video that I was watching today, just to give people some context. So give me just 1 second, sorry.
Barbara Miller, yes. The name is, what was it? Thomas
Jacob Sanford.
Thomas
S-A-N.
Jacob Sanford, like as in Sanford and Son.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there were children inside the worshiping area of the church, because in the main area during the main meeting, families are gathered together, sitting together in that meeting. So they had not, if the service started at 10 a.m., which is what we kind of assume based on the reports that have come out of there, then they would have been about halfway through their main worship service. So families would have been sitting together. And so, yes, from what I understand, children were among those who were injured during this incident today. What we're about to watch here is an interview with a nurse, and it was what I was referring to earlier. And it speaks for itself, so I'll just go ahead and play this little portion of it. Oops, sorry.
Her name is Tara.
I'm always on 2x because ADHD.
Well, she's standing here. She is with Henry Ford Genesis, and it's really interesting because this church basically is, with this incident happened, there's nurses who were on strike, and they rushed in to help. Talk to us a little bit about how this went down.
So, hi, my name is Tara. I was actually downtown Detroit with my Teamster family. I am currently on strike along with 700 other nurses at Henry Ford Genesis, Grand Blanc. And immediately, we all received the messages. Immediately, we're in our panic mode. That's our family. Not to get into too much detail, but my coworkers attend there. Their children attend there. Our family attends there. And we're getting calls that our coworkers are affected by this. Again, I won't go into detail, but we're being pushed away by Henry Ford. We want to be in there. We want to be helping. And there's babies. I'm sorry. I take my kids preciously. I take every life preciously. And
so you went into the hospital.
I was down in Detroit at the time, but there were ER nurses, there were other staff that are currently on strike, that know that hospital, that know how that hospital works, that can provide the care that they needed at this time. It was a mass casualty. They needed the help. They needed all hands on deck, and they were pushing the nurses that were on strike away. They would not let them enter the building.
And so when that happened, you came over here to the scene.
Absolutely.
Describe what happened.
We rushed here immediately because we wanted to offer our help. This is, again, our community. This is who we are fighting for. And it's not just this community. It's all of nursing. It's all of healthcare. This should have never happened. Why are our babies? Why are our churches and schools? Why are we being targeted like this? And why can't we help? This is what we devoted our lives to, is helping our patients.
So when you came here, how did you assist the people here at the scene?
My coworkers, I arrived a little bit late. My coworkers were there. They said they did as much as they could. And, anything a nurse can do. What is that? Show love, show up, give a hug, assist that family member that's crying, that doesn't know what's going on, that maybe doesn't know where their family member is at. Anything that we could offer, like nurses do, we were there for that.
Describe the scene when you came over here. I don't know, how close did you get to the church, and what did you see with your own eyes? I mean, obviously this is all in real time.
Well, driving up the highway, you can see the smoke. You could absolutely see the smoke. Immediately, silence. It was just a very, very somber feeling. You just knew something was bad. You knew something was bad. You come up to the road, you see all the construction tape. You see all the counties here. You see everybody. And it's serious. It's serious. This is our Grand Blanc.
Yeah, and I know that some of your coworkers attend this church. What can you share?
I personally, I can't go further on that for reasons that it's personal, and I'll let them speak on that on their behalf.
Okay. All right then. Look, thank you so much for what you do and for sharing that story. You know, again, it's stories like this. I mean, whether it's a resident, whether it's a nurse, you know, the victims inside, this incident has touched so many lives. We're around here and just hearing these things. I mean, we're going to be hearing stories come out for weeks and weeks ahead. Again, the FBI, they say they are sending 100 agents here to this scene to talk to eyewitnesses to get these stories taken from the.
Okay, I'm just gonna, I just wanted to fast forward through a little bit. This is the video I was speaking of that was taken by someone who was obviously standing across the street from the church as people were leaving. And I'm gonna mute the commentary in the background because it's just a little bit annoying, to be honest with you. But I wanted you to be able to see what this individual was obviously filming on their phone, so it's not the highest quality. But in just a second, it'll pan back to the right there, and we'll be able to see. There's the church building. Obviously, they've got a crane truck because the fire was huge. It was all the way up to the roof. And then here's where you can see people being taken out on stretchers, and you can see people dressed in Sunday church dress over here, leaving the building. And the building that they were in front of, as I was looking at it on Google Maps, this building over here, I was trying to rewind it a little bit, and I can't get it to exactly the right spot. But this brick building that's behind the red truck is part of the LDS church complex that's there. Sometimes LDS churches have like a garage type of place for storing machinery, equipment, or things like that, especially if there's a farm nearby or something like that that's church sponsored. In addition, real close by, I believe just on the other side of these trees was the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses, or maybe it's on the other side. I can't remember exactly the layout, but there's more than one church just right here in this area. And it is, it is sort of a rural area. Right behind the church is a big bank of trees. And then there's a small lake out that way as well.
Based on the size, Megan, doesn't it look like this was a stake center?
It does. It's a really large church building. And, from what I could see on the map, when I was looking at it, it definitely looked like it was a larger version of the church building, like it could have been a stake center.
And so for our listeners and viewers that are not LDS, a stake center is somewhere where multiple congregations can meet for larger gatherings, but it will also house local congregations during non-important event type meetings.
Yeah.
I'm not speculating at all, but the question pops into my brain. I do wonder if the horrific assassination of Charlie Kirk a couple of weeks ago lent any ideas to this particular shooter.
Yeah, it does. It does make me wonder too if there's any connection or if there's any possibility that he was influenced. However, as I said on my earlier report, I personally don't want to speculate on those things because, as I was watching this live stream, watching the chat go by and watching the speculations of people just throw things out there. And the problem is that when people speculate irresponsibly without saying this is a speculation, sometimes other people can take that as a fact or as, they knew
telephone
this.
Game.
Right. And then, who knows what goes on after that where, people, spread misinformation. So I just want to say for me personally, yes, I do speculate if it's connected, but I have no idea if it actually is. And there is no credible report or information out there right now that this was in any way connected or politically motivated or anything like that.
Yes.
There's someone who's in Washington, D.C. that does do that. And I actually have a tweet that came out. If you want to take that one down and I can show it.
Sure. Let me you want me to add yours?
Yeah, I don't know how it switches there. So this is a picture from Donald Trump's ID of the shooter, I believe.
Yeah,
There's
so
also some speculation on the side, I believe.
Yeah, I've heard this speculation that there was an IED. It says IEDs were found on church property. I don't have any way to verify that or know if it's true. And I think we just can't take anybody's word for it at this point. You know, if they want to come out and say that at some point, I think that's great. I think it's dangerous for anybody to make that kind of a claim without law enforcement saying it. I'm just not going to believe it up until it gets said. Sorry, go ahead. No, Charlie Kirk was not Mormon. He was definitely not Mormon.
And that wasn't Trump's Twitter either. That was something else. I didn't have the right word to say.
Oh, it was the Truth Social is his platform. So I'm guessing that's probably why.
It said Donald Trump for president on
Facebook.
Okay. So it could be somebody else.
Yeah, not the president.
Trump supporter.
Right. You know, I see why folks might say that. Kirk assassination supposedly had an LDS connection. Well, it's not supposedly. The alleged shooter of Charlie Kirk was raised in a faithful Mormon family. So that's the connection there. It's something that I've been investigating and reporting. So Salt and Pepper, I'm not trying to say that people in chat should not speculate at all. You guys are welcome to do as much speculation as you want. But what I think is dangerous is when a reporter, or even us, we're not journalists, you know, we're just regular people. But if we take an idea that gets said in chat and we run with it, then someone else listening to this or seeing it later might think that that's a fact or that that's something that we verified. So that's why I'm saying that me personally, I'm not going to speculate unless I make it very clear that I'm speculating and I don't have any proof for any of that.
And I hope everyone knows that I did say, when I brought up Charlie Kirk, it was just not even speculation. It just a curiosity in my brain, because I mentioned earlier about copycat crimes.
Right.
And they do come in waves, because one shooter sometimes encourages others who might have thoughts of that. And so I'm not saying it was or wasn't, but it could be a copycat type crime.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So Randy, I know you said you didn't get a chance to read the whole report that you ran, but I did read into a little bit of his criminal background. And do you mind if I say some of those things, or would you rather we hold off?
No, I'd appreciate it if you would let us know what you found.
So this came from a report that Randy gave me. So it's I'm not going to take credit for it, but so this individual was 41 years old approximately. So it does, verify his address and his phone number and all of those details that we verified. And according to this report, he was born in 1984. And when he was approximately 25 years old, he started to have some trouble with the law. So there is an offense in September of 2007. So I guess he would have been 23 at the time, where he had a conviction for driving while intoxicated in North Carolina. And then again in that was in September of 2007. And prior to that, in March of 2007, he had a driving while impaired conviction. So in the September incident, his driver's license was revoked. And then there's another unspecified criminal charge later in September. So the DUI, I'm sorry, these didn't come they didn't come in chronological order. So I'm kind of going back and forth here. So the first offense was March 8th of 2007. The second offense was September 1st of 2007 when his license was revoked. And then the other unspecified charge came on September 8th of 2007. And I don't know, obviously, what that offense was. But then, sorry, not September 8th, September 6th of 2007. And then again, in North Carolina, March 13th of 2007, there was another charge that was not specified. So obviously, he had some run-ins with the law in North Carolina. There was another charge that was filed in July of 2008 that was unspecified. And then I think about a year later, there was a bankruptcy filing. And, one could sort of speculate that it's possible that all the fines and fees from 2 DUIs right in a row, as well as, possibly having been fired from his job. Maybe we don't know exactly if he was or not, but sometimes that does happen. So then the only other thing I was able to glean from this report is a confirmation that he is the current owner at a company called Sanford and Associates, which I believe is a bricklaying chimney restoration type of a company there in Michigan. And I did take a screenshot of a post that was on that Facebook, which I don't think I can share it with you because I don't think I can, maybe I can share photos. Let me see 1 second.
While you're looking for that, Megan, he was obviously a very disgruntled individual. And I have to wonder if he was disgruntled, with the LDS Church, because that's what he targeted. So much so that not only did he, endanger the lives of so many, he actually took the lives of a couple of people. And I think my next investigation is to see if maybe he was a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or maybe an ex-member, or what it was that he had against the LDS Church, because he didn't attack the Jehovah's Witnesses right beside the church. He chose the LDS Church, and he seemed to know where to start shooting when he got in there. So I'm curious about that.
Yeah,
And
definitely you have to be an individual who is extremely angry to do something like this. What he was angry at or why he was angry, we don't know yet. Holly, I can't answer this definitively, but according to voter registration records, there was a woman living at the same address whose name I won't say, but they had the same last name. And so I don't know if he was married, but that's all the information I have.
I actually can read a little bit from a New York Post article.
Yeah, sure. If it's,
calls him an Iraq veteran of our Iraq War. And it says a Facebook post by Sanford's mother says the gunman who died at the scene in a shootout with cops who served in Iraq from 2004 to 2008. So that's what they're claiming is the mother. So maybe it's his mother. I don't know. I don't have a.
Yeah, I mean, obviously if it's from the New York Post, it's definitely possible that they did interview his mother, and that seems credible to me.
Or they looked up at the relatives.
Right. So I'm not sure that I can share this. Actually, let me try one more thing.
Social media accounts believed to be connected to Sanford show he's a family man with a wife and young son.
Yeah, the information that Megan and I received is indicative that he was married.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't know. Randy, is there any way for you to share that screenshot that I sent you?
Let me see what I can do.
I wish there was just an easier way for me to get it from, well, maybe there's an easier way to get it from my phone to here.
Let me see if it'll let me share. I may have to snap a screenshot of it. See if I can put it in my. What's that?
Well, I was going to say, let me see if I can find a way to share it from my Facebook profile.
The original topic that we were going to cover in our Salt Lake Expositor show today was what would Jesus, if the general conference was conducted by Jesus Christ, what differences would there be? So we'll definitely be covering that next week, but we figured this took a lot more precedence and it's on everyone's mind right now.
Okay, I found it on here. I'm able to share it this way. So this is the Facebook page of the business, Tom Sanford and Associates. And this is the only relevant post that I found. What if I told you they don't teach you your rights in school because it's easier to take them away if you don't even know what they are? The share from TDRH Media. The rest of it seems to be memes and just not painting, but pictures of different work that was done by the company. So, and the rest of it seems to be, managed by somebody at the company, or just it's all business related. That's the only non-business thing that I found on there, other than this funny video of a dog and a cat.
Are there any pictures of him? Is that him?
No. So these are all the pictures. This was the truck that was associated with the business, not the one that was in the pictures in front of the church. I don't even think that this guy in this picture is him, although it could be. Obviously, we can't see the face. So the only thing is that on the report, it confirmed that this was a business owned by the individual on the report. And so I think that it's accurate. Oops. Sorry.
Oops.
Could I do what?
Could you click on the picture of the dude by the fireplace one more time?
This one? Yeah.
I wonder if the way he puts his fires out is urinating on them.
That is a funny way to look at that. I don't know. I'm really looking forward to getting more credible information about this, because I have a lot of questions.
And you're looking forward to a better news conference.
Yeah, definitely. There was another thing I wanted to share, actually, that Tim shared with us. It's an aerial view of the church building so that people can understand kind of the orientation of it. Let me see if I can. Nope, that's not what I wanted.
So you want me to share a link to this StreamYard show in case people want to come into the studio and talk about the news?
Sure. Yeah. If anybody has,
I will
especially if
share
anybody has information that's being reported by news outlets that we haven't shared yet, or if we're missing anything from the story.
And I know Tim did a lot of sort of research, we'll say. I don't know if AI was involved in it, but it was basically asking how many church shootings have been since 1999 and some other things that he was sharing on his social media here and there. And if he wanted to come into the studio and give us a report on those statistics and just talk.
Yeah. Anyone who would like to contribute, we'd love to have you in. And the link is right here on the screen.
I don't know if this is true, because actually from the news conference that I shared earlier, well, I can show you a picture of the property, so I'll just show one and that'll be better. I did want to share one more thing as well.
Yeah, sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words.
Yeah, and if it was taken during the political season, that millions of people had Trump signs and Trump paraphernalia around, and that doesn't mean that they're bad people.
Yeah.
I, however, was not one of them.
So this is an aerial view of the church building on McCandless Road. You can see the cross icon there from Google Maps. But this is the front of the building that has that visitors welcome sign on it. And the photo that we showed earlier from the AP article showed the truck in front of that part of the building. The entrance,
sorry, which part?
This front part. Sorry, you can't see me pointing to it. My bad. Can you see? Yeah. So this front part right here is the part that has the visitors welcome sign on it. And when we looked at the picture with the truck in front of the building, that's where the truck would have been parked. But the actual entrance to the building would have been over here on the side. That would have been the main entrance to the building. There probably would have been another entrance back here in the building. And the way that this church is configured is that right behind this visitors welcome sign is where the chapel would have been. And the chapel would have been right in the middle here with a sort of like, racetrack shape going around the outside of the chapel, and then the classrooms on the sides over here. And so the entrance, again, would have been right here. So if he did in fact drive his truck through the entrance of the building, then that would have been over here, not in the front of the building. So I'm guessing that those initial reports were not correct, and that he actually, drove his truck to the front of the building. It doesn't look like he drove it through.
There's an entrance there now, though, Megan.
Right. That the police can go in and out.
Having done 1 million traffic accident investigations, I would speculate that and this is speculation once again, guys, but in order to get enough speed to crash through that wall, he probably came down McCandless Road and turned right there where you see the turn in, and just barreled straight forward. So I would imagine he had some pretty good speed on McCandless Road, turned, not a sharp turn, and rammed right into the front of the church. I don't think from the parking lot he could have gathered enough speed, especially if there were cars there. He had nowhere else to come in from.
Right.
So
And
that would indicate that he came in barreling down McCandish and turned right into that section of the church.
right. And if there were services there, the parking lot would have been full. And then just point out this line of trees right here. And then on the other side, this is the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses right here. So I want to go back, Randy, and show you again the picture of the Associated Press article that we looked at earlier, because I want your opinion as to whether this looks like he drove through it.
I know that you could see into the chapel.
Mhm.
I think he drove. You can see the bricks here. You can't. Can you? You can't see my. You can see the bricks on the left, and how they're crumbled, and the bricks fallen on the right. And if you look closely, the chapel, the seats from the chapel are beyond the truck, as though he made it halfway into the chapel area. And he probably opened his door and started shooting from behind his door, I would speculate.
Yeah, so it does look like there are bricks and other debris on top of the truck, which would indicate possibly he did try to ram the building. And especially if you look on the right, there's a crack right here in the bricks, which would indicate maybe the wall itself had crumbled when he ran into it.
Right.
And Randy, do you think the truck entering the building like that would cause a fire, or do you think that he would likely have to have an incendiary device of some kind to start a fire?
If his truck caused the fire, the truck would be burnt to a crisp.
Right.
So
it would have started right there.
He probably tossed some Molotov cocktails or had an incendiary device that he could toss in there and start the fire. But I don't think it originated from his truck, because the truck would be burned.
There were witnesses at the scene also who said that he set the fire deliberately. Actually, it was the police chief this morning that said that he set the fire deliberately. Somebody was.
Says he tossed explosives.
I don't know if that's true or not. Right. But somebody was commenting on the flags and saying that they didn't look like the current flag. They looked like the Betsy Ross flag. But to me, that doesn't look like a Betsy Ross flag, especially the flag on the right. It looks like there are plenty of stars on that flag. The Betsy Ross flag, the stars were in a circle. And so I don't think that looks like anything other than a regular flag.
The one on the left does look like maybe... is that what it's called, a Betsy Ross flag? Not the Confederate flag, but I don't see
the Betsy Ross
stars.
Yeah, so this is a row.
It's folded up, and we see like 7 stars already. So if it was unfurled, we would see another 43 stars probably.
The Betsy Ross flag, again, the stars were all in a circle, and these look to me like they're in a row, and so that to me looks like an ordinary flag.
Jagged like they are on our current flag. And there was a prior picture of his truck just outside his house or something that showed the flags, like, or maybe while he was driving, and they looked like just both regular United States current flags. So,
yeah, I was going to zoom in again and see if I could see what these stickers are in the back window. And one of them looks like the Great Lakes, but I can't tell what this top one is.
Yeah, the Great Amoeba. That's what it looks like. And Tim, welcome Tim onto the show.
Hi, Tim.
Hi.
Just as a point of interest on his LinkedIn profile, if you click on the link to go to his profile, Megan, did you notice that it's all Middle Eastern language that we don't know what it says?
I didn't look on LinkedIn, but I will now, because a lot of times what happens is when somebody's name gets released like this, people will make spoof profiles as well. So you do have to be careful about whether or not they're
if you go directly from the link on the report that I sent you under his under his LinkedIn profile. Watch what it takes you to.
Okay. I'll go look it up while Tim is talking.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for coming.
How are you feeling, Tim?
You're welcome. Sad, upset, broken. There's been 10 mass shootings since Charlie Kirk was assassinated.
And as I mentioned, you did some research on church shootings.
Yeah, I went on ChatGPT and I asked it how many church shootings since 2000, and there was.
Yeah, you can summarize.
Can't remember.
Over 20, right?
Well, 20 that were 25 to 30 fatal shootings, but they're like 250 or something like that.
Right.
Since then. Yeah. It's just sad. Jasmine, not right now. Cats want attention. Yeah, I just thought, okay, let me look at this and see how many. You know, and when this happened, I remember back in, it was the 80s or the 90s in Colville, Utah. Some people took a church hostage or school hostage, and they had a bomb or something, and it was a Mormon church. And it's brought back memories of that. And then there was a shooting in a chapel not very long ago. Maybe it was in the 90s. I can't.
Well, there was one. There was one here in Texas a short time ago. That was.
Was it LDS?
No.
Well, this was in an LDS chapel a few years ago. Nobody was hurt, but somebody's firearm went off and something happened. I can't remember. And then today, somebody on Instagram who is not Mormon anymore said, carry a gun with you at all times because only a good guy with a gun can stop the bad guy with a gun. And I thought about Uvalde, where 250 officers, 500 or 800, however many there were, I think there were 200 in the building, and not one of them had the guts to go in and kill the shooter. So that is total and complete bullshit. You know, a good guy with a gun is not going to stop a bad guy with a gun because they're afraid to lose their life. Period. End of discussion. You know, until it really happens and somebody has the guts to take that person out, I'll believe it then, but it hasn't happened yet. You know, more guns is not the answer to any of this.
There have been a lot of talks about employing armed security. I shouldn't say employing, but I know that after the last church shooting, I think, was it Memphis, Tennessee? I don't remember where it was, but
it was Minneapolis.
They called for members of the church who are in law enforcement to wield their weapons when they were in the church building, when they came to the meetings, to please bring their weapons, obviously not out in open view, but to have them available in case there were any repercussions or copycat instances.
Yeah. There's been 3 church shootings now this year.
I'm wondering if they're not going to start doing that. Have someone, you know, and it could even be a calling for someone who's in law enforcement or former law enforcement to, like they do on flights. They have the, you know, the
air marshals.
Agents on flights, air marshals. They might have something, you know, that's a speculation, that maybe they would have someone in the congregation that was armed and able to diffuse a situation.
Yeah, maybe. Let me know when it happens, okay, Randy? Let me know when it happens, all right?
Well, I'm not saying it will, but I think that it is called for.
It is called for, but it hasn't happened yet, you know? I mean,
I used to attend church in a building that was in a bad part of town, and people would frequently get their cars broken into during services. And so they did make it a calling for a couple of priesthood holders to go out into the parking lot during the second and third hours to patrol. And, they weren't super consistent about it. And one time my brother was visiting from out of town, and he had his vehicle, with all their suitcases in the car. And while he was in sacrament meeting with us, somebody or some individuals broke into his car and took everything that they had brought with them.
Wow.
And so, volunteer security, probably not the best idea.
Heaven forbid the church should actually pay for a security person during the meetings, because I know that they probably can't afford it.
Oh, no, not at all. But then they send a security detail with everybody who's a 70 and above out to wherever they go to give a conference. There's always one or two church security guys with them.
But those are the important members. Those are the important members, Tim.
That's right. That's right. The important ones.
I'm a little bitter about this whole thing.
The church is usually self-insured, so they would probably make a financial decision. How much would it take to staff 3,000 buildings per year versus how much is the payout for things that happen bad? That's
how many instances is it going to take, Gene? How many instances?
I don't have a calculator right here, right now.
Before they say, "Hey, our members are getting killed. People are shooting into the building. Maybe we should give up a few bucks just during the meetings on Sunday. Maybe you should give up a few bucks and have a security guard in the parking lot."
Right. And I'll just say one thing that I noticed a couple of years ago. I've said it maybe before on Tuesdays with Tim or other shows, but Jif peanut butter had some products that were tainted, and a couple dozen people reported being sick, and they did an over $100 million recall because they didn't want their product to be considered unsafe by the public. And yet churches, and especially as we see through the architecture of abuse and other shows that we've highlighted here and in other places, have been places that child SA has been sort of made more available, and the church lets it happen without any consequence. That they don't recall anything, they don't report to the people what the facts are, they don't let people know the dangers that they're facing or the precautions that need to be taken until they have to, right? And so we will see when that line is crossed.
It's crazy.
Yeah, the point that was made by the attorney who has successfully sued the church multiple times over SA cases, his point was that there are a lot of different things that the church could do to prevent the SA from continuing, but they won't, because they don't care. And that's the bottom line. They don't care. They don't care enough to take the precautions that they could take. Instead, what they would rather do is invite people, go ahead, sue us if you want to. And sometimes they will just make a payout without going to court because they are terrified of discovery. But they just don't care enough. It's easier for them to pay out the claims. Yeah, Tim Kosnoff is the attorney's name. And in this instance, I'm afraid to say that the response is going to be the same. They're going to think that it was a tragic event, that was a one-time thing, that was perpetrated by somebody who was off their rocker, which they're not wrong about that. But I don't think that they will change anything to try and keep members safer, because number one, you can't plan for every eventuality. And number two, they don't care enough to make that kind of a sweeping change and spend all of their money to do that. I mean, they're going to have to probably pay thousands of dollars in claims to all of these families who were injured or lost their lives in this tragedy today. And that's easier for them to do than making any kind of a change church-wide.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, Megan, is don't you think that these people are good candidates for a lawsuit because of the fact that the church has taken no precautions whatsoever, even though this has happened before? It was a few weeks ago, a man showed up with a gun in a chapel, and he was able to be talked down. And I wish I could remember off the top of my head which ward it was, but he showed up and was wielding a weapon in the chapel and got up and started yelling at the congregation. And one of the bigger guys in the congregation approached him and was able to talk him down and lead him out of the chapel. But what is it going to take? Seriously, what is it going to take?
It's going to take somebody shooting at a GA. That's what's going to take.
It's going to take it's going to take an attack on the apartment building where the
Eagle
GAs
Gate
live.
Apartments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Once again, the members that really count, right?
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sure. The hierarchy. Yeah. The 1%.
Yeah. So, Miss Mojo, yes, if this is your question, yes, the church is insured against things like that. But I think the ability for members who were present today and who were injured, for them to have any sort of a legal claim against the church, they would have to prove that the church was negligent in protecting their safety or in, some kind of capacity that could have prevented this. And or it's just going to depend as well what the motivation for the shooter was. I think that plays a big part in it, because if it is, and again, here's some wild speculation, if it is some disgruntled member or former member who was upset with the church in some way, or if it were a member, let's say, for example, who were excommunicated and they were mad at the church about that, then you might be able to reasonably argue that the church didn't take necessary precautions to protect against disgruntled former members. Again, I'm not an attorney, so I have no idea, but I'm just saying that the church has a lot of protections because it's a church, and there are a lot of things that they can get away with because they're a church. And so in order for them to be able to, be held accountable in any way financially for something like this happening, it's not likely. They do literally own beneficial life insurance, but they also own a lot of other things. The LDS Church is self-sufficient and incredibly wealthy, so they just don't care. Yeah. Nothing that happens in any church building is going to have a big enough impact on the bottom line of the LDS Church for them to change anything. That's my opinion.
Tim, Miss Kitty Cat.
I saw that.
Is asking, well, okay.
That's right.
I don't.
She wants your opinion.
Megan won't say, but we'll let Tim say.
I don't know.
But that was anticlimactic.
Well, I don't know. Why do I think he did it? I think he was disgruntled at somebody or something.
Do you think it was a national somebody or something, or a local somebody or something?
I don't know.
But it could be either.
He's obviously, well, from what we see, I live in the most conservative city in California. Bakersfield, California is the most conservative city in California. I see trucks like that every single day driving down the road, okay, with flags flying.
And none of them are shooting at you?
None of them are shooting at me. Well, it's sympathetic magic when you're flying a flag believing that it's going to protect you for some reason. Okay, I think he's a veteran. He's obviously a veteran. He probably did and saw things that were not good. He may have just snapped. Could have been just PTSD, and he just snapped. And he just said, I'm going to go do something about this, and this is the nearest church to my house. And he could have driven in there and did what he did. Or he could have planned it because could have been excommunicated. He could have been disgruntled. We're never going to know why he did it unless we find a manifesto.
Or if his family talk about
His family
he was talking about before he did it.
I mean, if there's anything in this social media that he's planning this or anything like that, we'll know more. But I have no idea. It's just speculation on my part. I mean, when I was excommunicated, I was so happy to be out of the church. I didn't want to have anything. Well, okay, as a matter of fact, on June 3rd, 2001, I was removed from a sacrament meeting. The bishop came down off the stand and told me I was no longer welcome there or in any other chapel at all. And he forced me to walk back to the place. He wouldn't let anybody give me a ride to the place I was staying. I had to walk all the way to this member's house. And while I was staying with this member, I couldn't be there when he wasn't there until I could move somewhere else. Okay. Am I upset and pissed off about that? Yes. Did I do anything about it like what this guy did? No. What I did was attack the church with truth, which is what we do on Tuesdays with Tim and other things I've said online about the church. Okay. I wouldn't become violent or anything like that against them. Let them stew in their own sauce and live in their own shit if they want to. That's their choice. But I think that I'm guessing he probably broke. He was broken. He was upset. I'm going to go do something bad. When they say he drove through the front door, he didn't hit the front door. He hit the front of the chapel.
Right. Front wall
of the chapel, which was okay. And we can't, it doesn't look like there's a door there or anything, right? I mean, it just looks like he ran right into the front of the chapel. The stake center, it is a stake center. So he just drove right in and then he opened the door and he went inside and did what he did.
So there are two more things that I'd like to show. This is a picture of the front of the shooter's house, allegedly. You can see a camping trailer and a little small house right here. And I don't see any signs in the yard, although this is Google Maps and we have no idea when the Google Map car went past the house. Probably not any time in the last few days, at least. And then I also want to show a map, because you guys know how I love maps. This is a map of the area, and you can see here's the church that was attacked, and then here is the residence in Burton where the shooter lived. And there's another church that's actually closer to the shooter's house up here near Flint, Michigan. So I'm going to speculate again that it wasn't just the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. It was that particular Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, because there were others in the area. There was one that was closer to his home. If it was churches in general, he probably passed, 5 or 10 other churches on the way. So I'm going to speculate that it was that particular building of the LDS church that was the target, that it was specified, and it wasn't just a random thing.
I have an updated report coming out from Fox News. Would you like me to run that real quick?
Sure.
Sure.
Okay. Megan, is it okay if I remove yours?
Oh, yeah, please.
As a result of that fire at the church. So hopefully we'll have some more information on that front when we check back in with you later on after that 8 p.m. news conference. Camille, thank you for that report. Let's go now to Fox 2's Jessica Dupnack. She is in nearby Burton, 15-minute drive from the church at a home where investigators say the shooter lived. Jessica, what's going on there at that scene?
A lot more of the same out here, Dave. You can see the bomb squad, the emergency support team with Michigan State Police staggered behind me, and one of those vehicles directly in front of the shooter's house here in Burton. Now, we've learned a bit about this shooter. He's a 40-year-old from Burton. He has a wife, a young son, and he is a Marine veteran serving time 4 years in Iraq. It's unclear if he saw combat during that time, but obviously, given the strategy and planning that was laid out today, he has firearms training, possibly explosives training, and that is part of the reason that the bomb squad is out here, kind of a secondary scene from the church, the possibility that maybe there are explosives inside of his home, some kind of booby trap or something like that. Now, we do have all new information. I just got out of the phone with sources, and they confirm with me that what the holdup has been out here is they're waiting for search warrants that are approved by the Genesee County prosecutor and judges, and they're waiting for that. So we're really in a holding pattern right now, but that doesn't hurt. That sort of delay in paperwork, if you will, doesn't hurt when you're dealing with a situation that could potentially become a secondary scene. I also spoke to federal sources in the ATF, and I'm told that the National Emergency Response Team is en route here. Now, that group is an elite group of investigators that handle explosives, that handle firearms. So they're being sent here. They will be on the ground in the morning, and it is a big deal when that team comes. They're the most elite of the elite. So I want to talk again a little bit about that shooter. We canvassed the neighborhood, talked to some neighbors, and this is what one of those neighbors had to say about his interactions with that 40-year-old alleged shooter. So he seemed like a relatively normal guy to you.
Yeah. But he was in the military, so I don't know if that had something to do with it. Maybe he just kind of snapped, you know. I'm in the military for 25 years, but
it sounds like he had all kinds of explosives at the church. I mean, the concern now is they're moving really slow. Yeah. Is going in that house. I mean, does that alarm you? You're not that far.
No, it don't really alarm me because I'm this far away. If it does happen, I don't think I get blown up. I can't believe it. It happens all over the world, but I didn't think it would happen over here.
Yeah, that is the sentiment out here in Burton. And behind me, the bomb squad is on standby to go into the shooter's home. Again, they're waiting on search warrants. We will be here every single step of the way. For now, reporting live in Burton, Jessica Dubnak, Fox 2 News. Yes.
Now, Randy, that shooting happened in July 2019 in Nevada in the Sacrament meeting.
Oh, the one that the previous one I was talking about?
Yes. I just looked that one up.
Yeah.
And he did drive right he drove right in front of the chapel. I'm looking at Google Earth and the image, and he drove right in, he just slammed right in front. Yeah.
Wow.
Scott, to answer your question, we were actually referring to a previous episode that we did about the horrific and unfortunate child SA cases that are happening in the LDS Church all the time. And what we were advocating was for changes that would help that problem. As far as this problem, I have no idea what anything would change, that the church could change to do anything about it, because we just don't know very much about why or how this happened in the first place. So that's not what I was personally talking about. I was talking about changes they could make that would protect children. So as far as this goes, until we understand the motive and all of that behind it, there's not much anyone can do to prevent this kind of thing from happening.
And some others commented, I think, that armed security guard at each building could help dissuade somebody. But somebody that's going to ram a truck probably doesn't care if there's a security officer wandering the premises.
Well, remember when you walk in, any store you walk into now has posts in front of the store, so you can't drive anything into it. You know, the LDS Church now is going to start. Let's hopefully they put up barriers so you can't drive through the front door. You know, I mean, there are things that they can do. But driving in front of the chapel, there's nothing they could have done. They couldn't have stopped this guy. A security guard might have stopped.
They could change the sign as well. All are welcome except those who want to do harm here.
Exactly. Yes.
Well, and it depends on their strategy, Tim, because
I know.
if you have an armed security guard, and we use that term, but I'm talking about an armed member or non-member, but dressed in a suit and tie with a side piece on.
Right.
Even if someone crashes a vehicle through, at least they can dispatch the person that did it and who has a gun and is shooting.
Our state presidency includes a former officer who still moonlights other places. And,
my former state president was police chief of the Victorville Police Department.
Armed, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
So they might start calling more law enforcement instead of lawyers into leadership positions.
Well, and they can utilize cameras, which I apparently I have not seen, but they can certainly utilize security cameras in the parking lot and have someone monitor them, you know, aside from having someone in the chapel who's what, you know, everyone volunteers to do everything else, clean the chapel, do the yard, all that crap. So why not have a law enforcement person as a calling, or, you know, on a volunteer basis, be armed in the chapel just in case anything else happens, but put some freaking cameras in the parking lot. The technology now is not expensive, and you can have someone monitoring them.
And Randy, what if they had coffee and donuts at every meeting? Would that attract officers in the neighborhood?
Yeah, you put the donuts out there, I think you'll probably attract more law enforcement. It'll attract me.
I wanted to say, Native AZ girl, that I saw you in the chat. It's good to see you back again. Good to see Joe Neal and some people I haven't seen in a long time. And then Olive Green had a question. Do you think he chose today because the passing of the prophet would make attendance higher? I don't know about that, but it's possible. But also, I think it's also clear that he knew when the church would be the most full. He knew when sacrament meeting would be taking place, because he chose the middle of that meeting to make his entrance. So again, I personally am going to speculate. I think that that it was this particular building, this particular congregation. That's what it seems like to me.
Yeah, it was definitely targeted. That's for sure.
And he could have just driven by a little bit earlier in the day and saw that there were a lot of cars either going in or in the parking lot.
Yes.
Yeah.
Isn't our church's schedules published on their website when their meetings are also?
They are, yes.
Okay.
Yes, their Sunday worship services are listed locally somewhere.
When you look it up on Google Maps, you know, you can see the church, the address. They'll have usually the phone number of the ward clerk or something on there, and then they'll have the worship schedule is on there as well. Leslie Byram is asking if there were church goers who died in the fire. And at this time, we don't know, because the last report that we had from police was that they were waiting to go into the building until it was safe. And so we did not receive an update in this latest news conference about any additional victims that might have been caught in the fire. However, I'm hoping that because of the location of where the truck was, I'm hoping that people were able to escape out of the back of the building, because there would have been plenty, you know, if he actually had come through the entrance of the building, that would have blocked an escape route. But, you know, again, as we're looking at the building from that aerial view, you know, there were 3 other exits that people could have gone out. So I'm hoping that was the case. And you know what, honestly, Heather Rose, this was actually the first thing that came to my mind as well, because number one, it just seems to be a thing that is happening lately. The child custody disputes turn into these crazy things. But it could be, you know, if he was estranged from his wife and child, it could be if they were members of the church, if his wife and child were, and they were sheltering the wife and the child, it could be possible. Or if somebody in church leadership helped the mom in some capacity. That's another huge speculation on my part, but it was one of the first things I thought of when I saw a picture of him with a child.
Well, this has been
That's good, Megan.
a show of a little information that we know, and a lot of speculation, a lot of theories, a lot of ideas. So it'll be interesting to see which of these come to fruition and which were spot on. And I'm anxious to get more information. I was just scanning the news stations to see if there was an updated, more informational thing. And you saw what I found, but I'm sure that there will be a lot of information coming forth over the next 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim, maybe on Tuesdays with Tim, we could do a follow-up and talk about,
Sounds good.
what has been found. And all of you,
Yes.
remember that we do have a show very similar Tuesday evenings. We call it Tuesdays with Tim. It takes place in Tim's virtual living room. And I know we have so many great viewers with this program, but we'd love to have you join Tuesday evenings too. It starts at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So whatever time that is for you. But you can find it on Megan's channel at _verse. You can find it at Latter Daily Digest. And you can find it on my channel, Momo Nomo. So,
The bat phone is ringing.
and we'd love to have you join us there. I'm not trying to cut this show off, but I just want to get that in before some of you leave.
And part of the show is to get people to talk about the news. We have Tim on, and the people are commenting in the chat. And I saw a chat on Latter Daily Digest thread that wondered about the timing of this. And I might have some relatives who might think that Satan was behind this, because on a day where Russell Nelson's name would have been plastered across the airwaves and newspapers as like honoring his contribution to the world, this tragic event is now supplanting that in some news outlets. And so
overshadowing it, yeah.
As a possibility. I'm just speculating. It could have been Satan.
June 25th is my birthday. It's also the day that Farrah Fawcett passed away. And I thought that was huge news, but then Michael Jackson passed away the same day. And
so your birthday got put third?
Well,
in the headlines?
But suddenly you heard nothing about Farrah Fawcett, and it was all about Michael Jackson. And I kind of think this whole news story has overshadowed the death of Russell M. Nelson.
Well, we've talked a lot about donuts as well, and we know how much Rusty loved his donuts.
Who doesn't? Just saying.
Yeah.
Genetic.
It's a male genetic response. It's salivation.
If the manna that fell from heaven, which I honestly believe was Captain Crunch, if it wasn't, it would definitely be mini donuts. Just saying.
Right.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we're totally skipping is
jocularity.
Jesus didn't come this week.
Is what, Gene?
Jesus didn't come this week. We're
That's
skipping
right.
there.
We were supposed to have the rapture, and it did not happen. There are a lot of people who are disappointed. I, for one, am disappointed. I wanted to be down here with all of my friends while all the righteous people left the planet.
And I know Keith was doing her best to bring on the rapture.
I'm pretty sure it did happen, guys. Megan, I sent you that pamphlet from a church near my home that the rapture did happen. And if you're still left here, you weren't one of the special people to be taken up. So there's a lot of improvement that needs to happen. So y'all are sinners.
Yep.
It didn't happen to us. It was supposed to be Tuesday, and we all showed up for my show, so none of us got raptured.
Russell Nelson was prophet for 7 years, I believe. 2018 was when Tommy Monson died. Is that correct?
He was in the Q15 for 40 years.
Yes, that's right. Altogether, he served in the top church leadership for 40 years. And he was waiting for a long time to take over and make Mormon a bad word.
And he was more than half the age of the church.
That's true.
Well, the church was founded in 1830, so I'm going to push back on your math a little bit.
The church is not 200 years yet. And he was 100 years.
Plus.
So
Gotcha.
I'll let you do the math there.
I see what you're saying there.
Yeah. And anyway, Tim was an eyewitness to that. Both of those dates.
Yes, I was. I was there. I was there.
Crush is remembering some memories about Rusty Nelson that not a lot of people remember well.
Oh, thank you, Krisha. Yes.
Yep. When the news broke about his daughter and son-in-law being accused of SA of children, Rusty commanded all of us to take a fast from social media.
So we didn't see what was going on behind curtain.
It could have been a total coincidence that God told him to tell us to fast from social media at the same time.
Right. Yeah. But there hasn't been an apostolic call for a fast on social media since or prior during conference.
No,
yeah,
not since then.
Krusha has all of the good memories about Rusty today. You know, I said this to Randy and Jean earlier today, that it is socially unacceptable in most cases to speak ill of the dead. And first off, the first thing that I said about President Nelson, his death today, is that my heart goes out to all of the people who loved him and who are mourning for him. At the same time, I also want to honor the people who were harmed by him. And I know personally how difficult it is to sit and listen to people speak loving, kind words about someone who abused me. And so if there are people out there who have very difficult, confusing, conflicting feelings today because people are saying nice things about a man who said or did something that harmed you, I'm here for you. And I'm sorry. And I know how you feel.
That's a good point, Megan. Thank you.
And Nelson even documented something that other people would recognize as narcissistic behavior when during a conference talk, he said that his daughter was having questions about the church. And his response was, how myopic? Instead of honoring somebody's and what do you call that when you acknowledging someone's concerns, right?
Yeah.
His daughter's concerns, and his wife was bringing those concerns to him, and he couldn't be bothered by it. And he announces it as a flex.
Well, they all say that, every single one of them. Like Renland's talk yesterday that Nemo did talk about. Yeah, they all say that.
Yeah, but can you imagine if your dad were like, let's say, president of a corporation,
yes,
and you worked for that corporation, and at a company meeting, your dad stood up and said that you had made comments about, that you weren't sure that the company was going in the right direction or doing the best things, and shamed you for it. How would you feel about that? I would be pretty angry and upset.
I'd be very angry and upset, yes.
That's very offensive because being myopic means lacking foresight or being
single eye.
Right. Without a broad knowledge. How offensive is that? That's your dad speaking.
Right.
Plus, dissenting is the opposite of being myopic. It's like opening your eyes to all the things that are happening.
Yeah. when actually Rusty is the one who was myopic because he refused to see anything wrong with anything that the church ever did. So that actually is myopic.
And narcissistic.
So, C. Cheadle, how does one become prophet? Well, Gene is vying to be the next prophet. You got behind in your campaign somehow, Gene, so I don't think everybody's going to be voting for you now because they don't know that you want to be prophet. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints likes to pretend that this is a common consent process where the church members get to vote their consent for the prophet. But the real way that it happens is that whoever is the most senior member of the quorum of the 12 apostles gets to be the next prophet. And so that would be Dallin Oaks. The most senior member is the person who basically has been in church leadership the longest.
Right. And none of that is in the Doctrine and Covenants or in the Book of Mormon or in any other scripture as the way things are until Brigham Young and his other apostolic cronies took over control of the church from, we'll say, the stake members.
It was January or February 46 or 47 at winter quarters where that was decided.
And Tim was there.
And Tim was
and
there.
I was there, and I'm the one that took the notes. I've got the notes.
I thought Gene was going to be
I
the
was
next
there.
prophet until I found out how myopic he can be.
For some reason,
I'm sorry, Gene.
I'm not going to say that I didn't see Nelson dying ever, but it sure didn't seem like he was gonna.
Yeah,
I thought he might.
Well, when we hear the reports that he was blind, I figured, oh, it's not much longer.
Really?
Yeah, that's what I thought when it was just last week that was it Gene Cook said he couldn't see anymore. I thought, oh, his sight's gone. So
that tells you that other organs might be failing as well. Okay.
Yeah, so Native Ezekiel makes a good point. They're not all mentally alert, and they're getting older and older and older. It used to be, that they were octogenarians, and now they're nonagenarians. and
if as a blind prophet he knew 14 other people that could lay their hands on his head and heal him.
Oh, really? 14 others, huh?
Yeah, if only he had that opportunity.
Gene, he must have had the faith not to be healed.
The priesthood power is so great, Gene, that if the Q15, if the top leaders of the church wanted to, they could walk through the halls of the primary children's hospital, curing all the little kids of cancer and illnesses and saving their lives.
I know that mine worked in one instance where I gave a child who was a baby in an incubator a blessing, who later turned out to be my youngest son's best friend many years later. So in that instance, it worked. So.
Right.
Yeah, when people get better, it's
or there
because
are
of the
thousands of people
blessing.
that get healed all the time without blessings.
Right, all the time without blessings.
Exact same rate.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But
let me tell you, the blessing thing has become a joke to me. When my wife was dying of cancer, she had so many blessings, and her name was on the rolls of the temple prayer roll. And you know how much good that did? 0 times 0. No good. And she died.
Yeah.
Yes.
I like that comment.
Max Jenkins.
Yeah, these old leaders of the church should be allowed to spend their last years with their family and doing things fun, enjoying life. And I'm sure they enjoy traipsing around the world and being worshipped, but they could let the members of the upper leadership, retire early, and that would be a kindness.
Okay, Jerome Thurston asked a question if Oaks is going to announce more temples. The answer is yes, because it's a tax shelter and it's the only way the church can justify having all its funds is by building more temples, more opulent buildings, throwing all their money into those buildings. Otherwise, their 501c3 status can be challenged. So they've got to throw money into more opulence.
Although people will catch on to that and it'll bite them in their celestial couch cushion someday.
Right.
Well,
Go ahead, Megan.
I don't know what to say after that. But usually when I say
they only care about their money. Just know that they only care about their money. That's all they care about. They never cared about the suicides that the exclusion policy brought, or they never cared about the suicides. They never cared about people getting hurt. They don't care about anything but their money. And just remember that. It's all about the money.
Tim, I don't think their money is the only thing they care about. I think they care a great deal about their reputation too.
Well, that too. Yes.
Let's hide everything we can that makes us look bad.
Yes. Yes.
I guess what I was, I don't know. I have a lot of thoughts in my mind right now, and
you'd rather wait to share them
till the after show. No, I'll just go to this comment instead. Shelley, you all spend more time on bashing the cult you came from. Explore your minds. I've already researched all of that. Get on with it. I'm really glad that you have researched on that and all of that, and that you know that already. Clearly, you're beyond us, but we like to support the people who have also experienced harm in the church and need a safe place to share their feelings and their experiences in the church as well. And so we don't do the bashing because it's all we care about or all we think about. We do it for the people who need a safe space. And we all needed a safe space at one point or another, and sometimes we still do. Because when you spend a lifetime devoted to a cause and then you find out that you were lied to your entire life, it creates an unbelievable amount of psychological harm that takes a really long time to unpack. And I've only actually been out of the church for a couple of years now. I was, this time 5 years ago, let's see, what year is it? This time,
2020, the end of COVID summer was 5 years ago.
Let's say my temple recommend expired in 2018, and I was a faithful, believing member for a long time after that. In fact, I got to the place where I believed that everything about the Mormon church was true, but that I just would never get to heaven because I just wasn't worthy enough. And I believed that for several years before I left the church. And so, yeah, it takes a long time to get over the psychological hurdle of having all of your existential fears come to the surface all at once. And I wouldn't wish it on anyone.
That's right.
Shelley, what made you leave? Why did you leave? Who was it that had you question your faith that made you leave? One voice is all it takes.
Right. Somebody had to do something, right? You can't, it doesn't just come into your mind in a dream.
We are doing it to support those who want to leave, those on the edge who are thinking about leaving, and to question their faith. That's why we do what we do.
Okay?
Exactly.
And
we're reaching out to them.
Burn the church down with truth. Burn it the fuck down with truth.
Tim. We
don't actually want to burn churches. So
no, but not literally. Not literally burn it down.
No, just shed light on the truth of the church is what you mean.
Yes.
Right. And
Shed light on it.
Who here is a human being that if you see if you go to a restaurant and you notice that the employees aren't washing their hands after they use the restroom or something else, or they're not being cleanly, or they're not using hand things, whatever, they're not doing all the safety concerns, who would just say, oh, I'll just let the next suckers that come into this restaurant have to eat the same slop that I just ate? Or would you make a comment on, let's say, Yelp or something else? Would you try to protect your fellow community members from unhealthy, unsafe behavior that you're observing? I think that's the human thing to do. And I think humans do it.
The reason speaking out, let me read this statement. The reason speaking out is so important is that it lowers the perceived risk of those who are still silent and have something to say. Your courage matters. Your words matter. Every voice is a key to unlocking another's. Okay, Shelley? That's why I do it. That's my purpose for doing it. Okay? It's my reason, my purpose. It hurt me personally. It hurt me. It hurt my family. It's caused my daughter not to talk to me because of the cult. Okay? It affects me personally.
This is a good question. Thank you, Tim. This is a good question from Susie Catherine. Do you think the church will help pay for the victims of today's tragedy? I honestly don't know the answer to that question. I don't know if the church has funds set aside for these types of things. I would.
Yes, they do. They have a, what's it called? What's it called when you have something set up to cover these kinds of events?
Like a slush fund or self-insurance?
There's another word for it. Can't come.
Like a victims aid fund or something like that?
No. I can't remember what it is.
Why would it be something other than self-insurance?
So they have the fast offering fund is for members in the area who are in need, and it's supposed to be self-sufficient so that, you know, when something like this happens, if a church member loses their home, or if their medical bills are too high for them to pay, the bishop has a discretionary fund where he can help members who are in need in that way. But as far as will the church with a capital C from Salt Lake give any money towards these victims, I sincerely doubt it, unfortunately. And I was going to answer young black economist's question about the temple recommend. Look what I found, guys. It's my Mormon card.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And it expired. Now I had to ask Kirsten the other day because I'm really confused about this. I'm fairly certain this was my last Mormon card, and it was issued in August of 2016. But my daughter was married in October of 2018, and that was the last time I set foot inside a temple. So how did I get in? I know I didn't renew my temple recommend.
What?
I actually, at one point, I considered changing this 6 to an 8. And then it would have been good for another couple years, but I was too Mormon to do that. So
wow.
I would love it if you and Kiki got a couple of recommends, do some arts and crafts and get a couple of recommends and go in for a session. And
no, thank you, Randy. I was traumatized enough. I don't need to go in and do it anymore. But it's a little card that comes like this. The bishop has a little 3-ring binder that has these tear out things in it, and it has a barcode on it. So when you go in for your interview, they write your name on it, and then they fill it out with your membership record number, and then they sign it, and then you sign it. And then if you're really, really Mormon, you go buy one of these things from the church distribution center to keep it in so that it doesn't get all wrinkled and ruined.
So you were really, really Mormon.
I was really Mormon. Yeah. All right, guys. I love you very much, but we've been on way too long, and I think we should call it a day.
That's right.
Sounds
Amen.
good.
Thanks
I
everyone for
concur.
watching.
Thank you, everyone, for watching.
Hey guys, if you wouldn't mind, remember to share this video. It contains, I know it contains some lighthearted humor in it, but it also contains a great deal of information and curiosities that I think others would love to hear. And like we've just said, we're not bashing the church. We're not bashing the members of the church. We're reaching out to help people who are on the edge and are afraid to make that move, to help them know that there's others. Because if I hadn't have had the post-Mormon community and found it online, I would still be, I'd have ulcers by now and probably dead because I thought I was the only one.
There was no.
Shelley, just so you know, we're helping hands, basically, is what it is. And
There was no post-Mormon community for me like this.
Well,
And you wish there had been.
I do.
Anyway, I was just going to say, if you please like and share this with someone you think maybe could use the information that we've talked about or the opinions. We'd love it if you'd share it with your friends. And yeah, and we love all of you, and we thank you for always being a great group of viewers. You've become members of our expositor family, if you will.
There you go.
Exactly.
So
Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for all your contributions and comments in the chat. Thanks for being kind to each other, and to those who weren't, feel free to scroll on by next time. Love you.
That's right.
I'll hit
Love
the
you
end
guys.
screen now.